Live with CDP Sports Talk, a weekly sports and entertainment podcast sponsored by Barry Cullen Chevrolet. Live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and LinkedIn. And on audio via Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Spotify, Anchor FM, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Radio Public, and TuneIn. Now, here's your host, Chris Palme.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Season 9, Episode 51, overall 491 of Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show, sponsored by Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership at 905 Woodlawn Road West in the Guelph Auto Mall. Check out barrycullen.com for the newest selection of new and pre-owned GM vehicles, along with their great selection of all-electric vehicles and Cadillac products as well. You can call the dealership at 519-824-0210 and tell them Chris Palme sent you, or you can email them at info@barrycullen.com. Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership has been family run and operated here in the city of Guelph since 1969, and I've been a proud customer of Barry Cullen Chevrolet for the last 25 years. Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show is also brought to you by Wellington Brewery at 950 Woodlawn Road West here in Guelph. Check out their website, wellingtonbrewery.ca. Try a Welly on, and please remember to drink responsibly. Wellington Brewery is celebrating their 40th anniversary as one of Canada's oldest local craft breweries in the country, and Wellington Brewery has been a proud sponsor of this show since November of 2024, and a shout out to Jackie Hanna as well from Wellington Brewery. I hope everyone's doing well on this Thursday, February 6, 2025. We had some snow and freezing rain here in southern Ontario this morning. We're getting closer to Super Bowl 59 between the Philadelphia Eagles and the Kansas City Chiefs, and I'm looking forward to it. But I'm looking forward to my guest today. This is her first appearance. She's a two-time Emmy award-winning sports journalist in Detroit. She's been with Fox News since 1997, and if anyone knows Detroit sports as well as my guest does, I don't know anyone else, and I'm excited to have her on today. Her name is Jen Hammond. She's a sports reporter with Fox 2 in Detroit, and she's been with them since 1997. Good afternoon, Jen. How are you?
I am well today, Chris. How are you?
Good. It's a pleasure to have you come on my show, and I want to say thank you so much.
Oh, I'm so happy to be with you. It's really great to talk Detroit sports any chance I get.
Absolutely. And I've been lucky. I've had a number of guys from Detroit on my show, Brad Galley, Dan Miller, Sean Belegian. So even though I'm a Philadelphia Eagles fan, I have a soft spot for the Detroit Lions. And I was really hoping for an Eagles-Lions matchup, but that'll have to wait to next year and maybe twice, once in the regular season and once in the NFC Championship game.
Yeah, you know, I really was expecting that is the path that the Lions were going to take, but boy, did they run into a buzzsaw, right? They ran into a really motivated Washington Commanders team that played probably a little bit over their head, whereas the Commanders played their best game. The Lions played their worst possible game at the worst possible time. And you know what? It's just the way things work in that sport, in any sport too. But when it's only one game on the line, you got to be your best when it's required, and the Lions just weren't.
One of the CFL teams I covered a couple years ago, the Toronto Argonauts, they went 16-2 in the regular season. They dominated the whole regular season. And in the playoffs before the Grey Cup, they had their worst game of the year in a playoff game against Montreal, and they lost. And that's what we love about football. No matter what your regular season record is, in the playoffs, one off game, and you're eliminated.
Yeah, every team has a chance. And I almost feel as if the Commanders this year were a little like the Lions last season, right? When they went into San Francisco, no one gave them a chance against a very healthy and motivated Niners team. And they dominated, as we saw throughout that whole first half. And then maybe it came down to just 2 or 3 plays, obviously a couple of drops, right? Huge third down drop, fourth down drop, and also the fumble by Gibbs. Those two things between Reynolds and Gibbs, you can find 3 plays that were the difference in that game. And I think that that was a great opportunity for them last year in San Francisco, and no one expected it. And this year they had a target on their back, right? They became the hunted instead of the hunters.
And the Eagles went like that last year too, when they started 10-1, and then I wouldn't say melted down, but when you're targeted, it's much harder. And by the way, this is for Lions fans too. The Eagles in the early 2000s under Andy Reid and Donovan McNabb went to 4 straight NFC Championship games and lost them all. And then they lost the Super Bowl to the Patriots by 3 points. So Philadelphia Eagle fans can relate to the Detroit Lions fans. And I would say keep the faith, keep the hope. This team is not going away next year. And sometimes you have to go through the lows before you can get to the highs.
Yeah, I actually kind of compared this season to the 95-96 Red Wings, right? They had so much talent and even, got all the way to the Cup finals in 95, but were swept by the Devils. And sometimes, and people don't always like to hear it, but sometimes you need to lose to learn how to win and to really understand. And I'm not saying that the Lions don't know what it takes. They got all the way to the NFC Championship game in 2024, but it's definitely something that you have to build up over time. And as long as they have Dan Campbell at the helm and they have Jared Goff under center and they've got that offense cranking like it is, I think they're always going to have a shot. And certainly, there are some places that they need to patch up, improve, and fortify. But I think that the bones of this team are going to be very good for a very long time.
I just wanted to get your quick thoughts on the overall year the Lions had, especially overcoming, I think, insane amount of guys hurt, 21 guys, and the job that Dan Campbell and this coaching staff did, especially patching or duct taping that defense up.
Yeah, tape and paper clips, right? The way they got through that. And it's really incredible because they got the most out of their roster, no matter who it was. And I do remember it was after the Aiden Hutchinson injury, I believe, after that Dallas game, that Dan Campbell stood at the podium in Allen Park and said, this isn't gonna end our goals or our season or what we think our chances are, right? Worse things are going to happen to us. We're going to have more injuries. Unfortunately, this may not be the biggest and the worst thing that happens to us. And lo and behold, after that, Alex Anzalone was injured and they lost some other guys and Aleem McNeil. But it was really interesting to hear him say that. And his mindset always is line them up and we'll just, we'll try to do what we can. We'll give them our best shot no matter who we've got in the lineup. So he's a great motivator in that sense that he's always been able to pull guys together. When we talk about head coaches, Chris, it feels like the term leader of men is always kind of thrown around and it sounds cliche and really cute. Like it's a great little, fit all, but Dan Campbell is truly one of the best leaders of men that I have ever witnessed, not just in the Lions organization and in the NFL, but in this city, in any sport. Jim Leland comes to mind as a guy who is a great leader of men, but I just don't think it's as common as people want it to be. When you see Ben Johnson go and get the job in Chicago and Aaron Glenn, and people say, all right, maybe Ben Johnson isn't as much a leader of men as Aaron Glenn is, but Dan Campbell is on that Mount Rushmore of leader of men. And I think that anytime he takes any Lions team into battle, they're going to be beyond prepared.
From a media point of view, what are a couple of his biggest strengths as head coach of the team? Obviously, leadership is one of them, but what are some other strengths that he has?
So from a media perspective, what I love personally, I can only speak for myself, but I've had other conversations with other media members, is Dan Campbell's never going to BS you, right? He's going to shoot you straight every time. There's no question he won't answer. And if he doesn't want to answer it, he'll say, he'll give you that wry smile, that Dan Campbell kind of grin, like the cat that ate the canary. And he'll tell you, I can't answer that, or, something to that nature. He's very clever. He's very crafty, but he's authentic, and not only authentic in the sense that what you see is what you get, but he's kind of a throwback. He's a really unique human, and he shows his emotion, be it good, be it bad, negative, positive. He's not afraid to say, yeah, if I had that to do over again, I wouldn't have done it. And there's not many guys in the business, let alone in any business or in the world, that are going to give you that kind of real, uncensored look behind the curtain at their personality and the way they go about their jobs.
What's Dan's contract status with the Detroit Lions? And for me, as an Eagles fan, Dan Campbell fits Detroit. Blue collared, hardworking, and no nonsense. And to me, as long as he's there, they have a chance to win. And since I have you on, Jen, what are your thoughts on the departures of Ben Johnson, obviously to Chicago, and Aaron Glenn to the Jets?
Okay, well, now you've got me looking up Dan Campbell contract. I believe it's through 2027. Yep. They signed in 2024, the Lions signed he and Holmes. Sheila got both Dan and Brad signed through 2027, which is great. And I've got to imagine that that will continue, that they'll just keep upping them as long as Dan wants to stay in Detroit. It's funny how I feel like he was built for this moment. He was built for this city, right? There's something about Detroit, and you know this from spending time around here and also watching sports, that Detroit is a very different kind of market, in that the sports stars here, the media people are the stars. You know, in LA, it's kind of like they're part of the fabric of the team. And in New York, there's so much other stuff going on. Philly as well, yes. I think has a lot of this kind of blue collar. Our sports celebrities are our stars. But in Detroit too, people aren't as rough, you know, as Philadelphia, like not as hard on coaches and the players.
Absolutely.
There's a real kind of collaborative, if you will, a collaborative approach of that we all kind of root for the city. You know, it feels like a lot of the people here are Detroiters at heart. And when you get a guy in like Dan Campbell that fits that culture, even his wife, Holly, if you've watched her grow on social media, she has completely leaned into the city of Detroit. And grit isn't just a cute saying, you know, it really is a philosophy. It really is a mindset. And the Campbells own that. And I do think that, you know, that loss to the Commanders, whereas it hurt, I felt a little more sting last year after they lost to the Niners, because they were so darn close to the Super Bowl. This year, you know what, just a hot team beat them. But I do feel like Dan Campbell is the perfect guy for the city of Detroit, and that he's going to stay here as long as he wants to be here. I don't imagine that this relationship is going to end anytime soon.
How is the media and the fan base with this team right now? And I want to get your opinion too, Jen. Obviously, they had a great season. They're going to get a lot of guys back healthy next year. But in the off season, where do you see Brad Holmes and the Lions management team looking to upgrade this team through the draft in Green Bay and maybe through some trades or free agency?
Yeah, well, let's start with the trades. I mean, Chris, you hit it on the head. Of course, all the news this week with Myles Garrett wanting out of Cleveland, and as well Cooper Kupp being on the block in LA. Everybody immediately pounces to the what if they come to Detroit. And Detroit, I think, was the odds-on favorite at one point for Garrett. It will be interesting to see if that happens. I think there's a greater need, and there would be more of urgency for Brad Holmes to take a look at how they could make that work, right? Get that pass rusher, get that guy opposite Hutch. If they had Garrett, I mean, it would be a game changer for this defense, obviously. But at the same time, you've got to be very cautious with how you handle the books. And that's been one thing that Brad Holmes has done very well all along, is they've built this team the right way, which is through the draft. So you've got young guys on first year, you know, first contracts. But there's going to be a lot of guys now that have to be paid still. You know, they took care of a lot of their guys this year, and they did a really good job of doing that and making sure that the people who were priorities, primarily on offense, got paid. Aleem McNeil being the outlier, the guy in defense. But there's going to be a bunch of other guys that come due. I mean, you know, Laporta, Campbell, Kirby. There's going to be a lot of people that they've got to pay. So if you mix in a guy with a big contract like Myles Garrett, and he's going to want to get paid too, you know, after his deal is up in 2 years, it's going to be very difficult to keep all of those people on the same team. That's just the way they do it in this league and in every league and in this era of salary caps. But I do think that they'll try to take a stab probably at some defensive help through the draft and free agency. As far as Cooper Kupp goes, I mean, boy, he would be a great fit with Jared. They know each other well. But I would not give up an Amon-Ra or a Gibbs. You know, there's been a lot of talk about what would you give up, because you've got to give something to get something in this league. And I don't think that it's something that Brad Holmes wants to do. He's not a guy who's interested in mortgaging the future for an offseason trade.
Just look at the Philadelphia Eagles last year. They had the worst defense in the National Football League in 2023. And Howie Roseman, who I think is one of the best GMs,
Yeah.
obviously he signed Saquon Barkley, but he's made their defense number one. And the Eagles did not have a high draft pick, and they ended up getting Mitchell out of Toledo and Cooper DeJean out of Iowa. And that's how you build your team. And I think the Lions long term are going to be a successful franchise going forward.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And I think that that's kind of the same cloth that Brett Holmes is cut from. We're going to build through the draft, and we're going to just help coach up guys that we've got here. And I think it has served them well so far. You know, you can't debate their results, because what they've done has worked pretty well, even in the face of extensive injuries that would have gutted other teams. I mean, they rolled a 15-2 when they've got, 22 guys on IR at one point. That's almost unheard of. In fact, it is the first time ever in NFL history that a team with that many guys have been on IR at the same time. So I do believe in what they're doing. Their methodology has been really sound so far, and they've got great coaches. They lost some this season, and it's going to hurt them. I don't know to the point that they'll take a step back, because I think they've got so many vets in that room. And when you've got Jared Goff, helping to say, yeah, John Morton is the guy that I would love to work with, who was a pass game coordinator with him here previously. It speaks to the team, the chemistry that goes on between the coaches and the players, and that also builds success in the future.
And the more success a franchise has, every other team's going to want your coaching staff. So,
yeah, right.
So the Lions
business, yeah,
absolutely.
Price of success is people are going to come after your coaches and your players. And it's actually surprising that they were able to stick together as long as they did. They really, and the fact that Ben turned down the Commanders last season to stay for another go at it was really incredible and impressive. And I think that they'll be okay. I really do. I really love the fact that they found a way to keep Hank here, because I think Hank Fraley is a huge cog in that offensive success. And the guys on the offensive line absolutely love him. And it was great at the end of the season when we were talking to guys like Penne and Frank Ragnow, and even Taylor Decker, saying, we're not letting Hank out of the building. We're not going to let him go. And they kept him without even giving him the offensive coordinator, title, which is really impressive. So, I think it's going to be hard to replace a guy, the receivers coach that went to Chicago with Ben Johnson. It's going to be really hard to replace. Why am I blanking on his name? Blanking. Okay.
Aaron Glenn, who went to the Jets.
No, receivers coach.
I hate that feeling. The person's name, and it doesn't come out of your cups.
Anyway, so they've just got to get they've got to get their guys buying in and listening to whoever is there, and it's going to be great.
Just thoughts on David Shaw coming over from Denver, and Casey Rogers as the new coaches on the staff, as you mentioned, John Morton.
Well, haven't talked to them, haven't met them, don't know much about them, except for what you read. But again, to my point that Dan Campbell seems to know, I mean, there were a lot of guys, like, people didn't know Ben Johnson how many years ago, and he came in here and was a guy that quickly rose in the NFL respect and ranks. And Antoine Randall, thank you.
The former Steeler receiver.
Oh,
as soon as you said the first part of it, it happens to all
L
of us.
went to Chicago. Anyway, but yeah, I think that Dan Campbell knows exactly what he's doing, and he can get the most out of his coaching staff. And he also allows them to coach. And one of the great things too, I think, about Dan Campbell as a head coach is that he doesn't need to be right. And he doesn't have this smartest guy in the room mentality. He doesn't always need to have people, bow to him and give his opinion first. And he will accept people questioning, what he does in a room and with his staff. And I think that that's really important. And that's how you keep good coaches once you get them. And that's also how you empower people when they're in a position, of leadership, to be able to say, you know what, can we try this way? And he'll listen, and he'll always give people a chance to share their opinion and their ideas. And I think that's a great vehicle for success.
You've been a reporter at Fox 2 since 1987, and you've covered a lot of coaches in Detroit. Out of dealing with all the coaches, where would you rank Dan Campbell for dealing with as a
Number
media
one.
person? Number one?
Yeah, absolutely number one. I mean, a lot of guys, there have been very few that were not friendly or accessible, very few. But Dan Campbell is a very rare commodity, and he has been my absolute favorite. I think he and Jim Leland are two of my favorites of all time in any sport that I've covered, here. Certainly a guy like Tom Izzo is one that comes to mind too, as someone who's open, honest, will talk with you off the record, will tell you what you want to know. Izzo even does a little more talking off the record. Greg Campy at Oakland University is another great coach who's always been so forthright and authentic. And we're just really blessed to have Dan Campbell here. He's a rare guy, and I can't say that enough.
Hey, Jen, do you have time for 5 more minutes? Just a couple more quick questions.
Absolutely.
Okay. Before we get quickly into the Red Wings and Pistons, just wanted to get your thoughts as an outsider, since I'm an Eagles fan. Just quick thoughts on the Super Bowl 59 rematch between the Birds and the Chiefs, and who do you see winning the trophy, the MVP, and who do you like as an X factor in this game?
All right, those are three big questions. So winning the game, until they tell me or show me otherwise, I can't bet against the Chiefs. I would put my money on the Chiefs, absolutely. I love the Eagles story with Saquon Barkley, and I love him as a guy, as a player. He reminds me a little, and maybe Chris, you can even chime in on this, of a Barry Sanders. Gets in the end zone, passes the ball to the ref.
Yep.
Very understated. It's not about him. He just said yesterday, I saw some tape from down in New Orleans where he said, I don't care if I have 100 yards or 1 yard, as long as we win. And it's not common in the NFL, that a guy says that and really means it. And I think Saquon is one of those guys. He is young. He is so talented. He's so much fun. So I would root for the Eagles. I love Brandon Graham.
Michigan alumni. Michigan alumni.
One of the Michigan alumni, old guard guy that you can root for. And it would be really fun to see, I think, something different, see the Eagles win. With that said, I don't know how you bet against Kansas City and Patrick Mahomes. I mean, this guy can pull a rabbit out of the hat when he doesn't even have a hat, right? He's an incredible talent for the ages. And I do think if there is a team in NFL history to win the three-peat, this is the one. The fact that Tom Brady never did it is pretty incredible. But I think that these teams that we have seen in Kansas City, and especially this season, the way they've gone about it, very much unexpected, and people, counted them out. And in close games, in late game situations, their belief is it's unmatched. And I really think that they're going to three-peat. I just don't see it. And Mahomes, obviously MVP. He always is. He always can, and he always does. He's got to have somebody help him out. I mean, he's got Chris Jones has been incredible.
Yep.
And I think he will be a huge force and factor in that game, especially if they want to, slow down Jalen Hurts and stop Saquon. And it's interesting because, just when you think that they're going to line up and run on first down in Philadelphia,
they can pass
deep on you. Yeah. And
AJ Brown.
Yeah.
AJ Brown.
Got to be careful. And I think that they've got great defensive prowess in Kansas City that's often overlooked. And I think that that's going to come into play more than people expect.
I think it's going to come down to the O-line and the D-lines. Which lines do better are going to win the game. And also turnovers. I think turnovers are going to decide this game. Super Bowl 57, Hurts had the one fumble, and Kansas City got a touchdown, and that was the difference. So I really think it's going to come down to line play and playing a clean football game. And the Eagles are plus 10 in the playoffs in takeaway. So I think it's gonna be a close game.
Really,
but I
plus 10 in the
they're
postseason.
plus 10. Yep, between the Packers, the Rams. Yeah, they're plus 10. between the Packers, the Rams, and the Commanders, they've taken away the ball 10 times and they haven't turned it over. And Jalen Hurts this year, everybody still, I don't know why there's so much dislike for him. He just wins football games and he has really worked on not throwing interceptions, make bad decisions, or fumbling the ball. And I think that's going to be key, playing a clean game. And also, I think Saquon Barkley is going to have a big game. Buffalo had 85 yards with James Cook, and he's a nice running back like Gibbs is. And I think Philly's just going to stick to their game plan. I think they're going to establish the run, and it's going to be a really good game. But I really think this Eagles team is better than they were 2 years ago, in my opinion.
I agree with you too. I think they are a better team than they took to the Super Bowl 2 years ago, for sure, on offense and defense. Every phase of the game. I do want to see a good close game, right? A blowout is so awful on Super Bowl Sunday. I like when it comes down to the last minute or even there's a comeback, With that said, I'm rooting for my Squares to hit because they never do.
and you got two former Lions in our secondary, CJ Gardner-Johnson, who's made a big difference, and Darius Slay, who I hopefully Slay will play one more year with Philly, because I think this is going to be his last year next year. And Brandon Graham
back to Detroit.
Yes, and when I think of Darius Slay, he had a great career with the Detroit Lions, and he's been a very good addition to Philly.
Let me tell you something. That was one of the hardest things to watch, is to see that team get dismantled, and that, they had so little talent when Patricia was here, and for them to get rid of Diggs and Slay, their two most talented, outspoken veteran leaders on defense, I think was a crime. It really, and those guys wanted to be here. They just didn't want to play for Matt Patricia, but they wanted to be here. So that's what it is. But yeah, it would be fun to see Slay get a Super Bowl, really get a ring. I would root for that.
And Brandon Graham, hopefully he can play his last game in Super Bowl 59.
Yeah, he's a good guy, and I just root for good people a lot too. And he's one of the rare ones in the sport.
Doing media work for a number of pro teams, you get to know these guys. Obviously, you have to be neutral, but you get to know them as human beings, and you want to see them do well too.
Absolutely. You know what? I always root for good people, and I always root for a good story. And that doesn't mean that I always root for the team. I mean, the year that the Lions went 0-16, when it was getting to 14, 15 losses, I thought, well, 0-16, if you're going to be bad, be historically bad. It's a crazy story. It's one we've never told here in Detroit. So not that I rooted against them, but when things happen like that, and I love the underdog too. And until they go to the Super Bowl, the Detroit Lions will be the underdog. So I appreciate telling that story, and for the fans as well, what this team has meant to this city this year. And I feel like it's also created a little bit of a splashback effect, to now see the Wings, the Tigers, the run that the Tigers went on last fall, completely out of nowhere. It was just so much fun to watch. And it was such a great group of young players, and the way that they did it with pitching chaos. AJ Hinch is really a marvel as an MLB manager. And he's another guy too, who's a great leader of men, in that he can get them to trust him. He'll always shoot them straight. And if somebody's not, pulling their weight, he'll talk to them about it. He's a guy that doesn't mince words and keeps you honest. And he's a really good manager. And I think that he's going to be very good. I would love to see them get Bregman. I don't think that's a done deal. I think they are working as hard as they possibly can. I know Scott Harris wants that very badly. I know AJ wants it very badly. The fact that they got Jack Flaherty back is going to be huge for that staff, because pitching, whereas it was something that let them down in the postseason, they need that bat too. So Bregman would be a great addition, and it would create huge competition and really light a fire under some of those younger guys, those infielders, to get hitting and get doing what they need to do to keep a roster spot.
And training camp opens up in a week and a half?
Yeah, we're leaving on February 11th to go down to Lakeland. My photographer, Jeff Holloway, and I have gone down there the past few years. I've been going down there since, I can't even, 99 or 2000. And yeah, so we go down on Tuesday, pitchers and catchers report that day. And then the first workout is on the field Wednesday, the 12th. So we will be down there. We'll talk to Jack Flaherty and obviously the Cy Young winner, Tarek Skubal. It'll be really
Skubal.
exciting. And a lot of the position players show up then too. It's really kind of a nice time because it's the calm before the storm. But there's a lot of guys that show up during pitchers and catchers and just get their work in. And this is a team I think that's going to be very motivated and very hungry because of what they were able to accomplish last year, you know. And it was only because of that hot second half, and that's uncommon. That's not going to happen again. So they understand how crucial it is for them to get a fast start. And not just a fast start, but a sustained start and play well in the first half and the second half and consistently, you know, take series at home and on the road.
And there's two other teams too in Detroit. The Pistons, I call them the gritty Pistons. They've been so fun. I know they lost their last two games, but Cleveland is a hell of a team, and it's just they're so enjoyable, not just because they're winning games, but the development of Cade Cunningham.
Yeah, the development of Cade Cunningham is incredible, and to see the way that he took over that game against the Cavs in the final 2 minutes. If you didn't think he was a superstar with the capability to take over a game before last night, you got your proof last night. I mean, that was an absolute performance for the ages, and the fact that shot from half court went in. I mean, that's a heartbreaker, and that's a great player making an incredible, improbable play, kind of like the one 2 nights prior when Trae Young just, you know, hung on to it, and I think it was with 1.6 left, launched that beautiful teardrop jumper, you know, falling away, and it was an incredible play. So 2 incredible plays beat them, but those are the types of things, and JB Bickerstaff said this after the game on Monday night. I wasn't there last night, but on Monday night, he said, those are the games that will teach us, you know, that we'll grow from, that we'll learn. This is how you've got to, you know, this is how you can lose if you don't handle your business early. And if you don't play defense when you need to. I mean, the defensive lapses against Atlanta were really, I mean, 73 points in the first half was absolutely incredible, something that the Pistons haven't done in decades. So, you know, they've got to just learn. And I think that's a great way for them to learn. And JB Bickerstaff is an incredible coach. I've really enjoyed watching him develop these young players, give guys more playing time. You know, Holland is getting a little more confidence. Sasser is starting to play a role. And Cade has just blossomed into the superstar that we all hoped he would be when they took him number 1 overall in 2021. So it's really impressive to see that he is getting the most out of his guys. And with the fact that they lost Jaden Ivey too, who was a great role player and a great compliment. But, you know, when they've got a guy like Tobias Harris and Hardaway Jr., you know, guys that are really playing a role. And God, I can't even believe I've gone this long without saying Jalen Duren's name. I mean, averaging a double-double nearly. This kid is going to be special for a long time to come. And I do hope that they make some kind of significant move, you know, today before the trade deadline to get this team just a little bit better so that they can go into the postseason competing and not in one of those play-in spots.
I believe they are a playoff team, and it's nice not to hear about Tom Gores. I think he's finally hired the right GM and the right coaching staff for this team. And pray that they can add to it and maybe win some playoff games for the first time since 2008.
Yeah, and wouldn't it be something? I was talking with Trevor Thompson from Fox Sports the other night at LCA before the Wings game, and I said, wouldn't it be incredible to see April and the D return, right? When the Pistons are playing for the playoffs, the Red Wings are heading into the playoffs, and the Tigers are relevant. You know, it's really starting to feel like Detroit is now to the point where we've got 4 really good coaches. I think in the 30 years, I mean, I started at WDFN in 1994, right? Covering Detroit sports on the radio. And in the 30 years that I have been here in Detroit covering sports, I think these are the 4 most competent, engaging, and successful coaches that have been, you know, all at the same time. And I'm not saying Todd McClellan is a better coach than Scotty Bowman. So whoever's, you know, running to Twitter to say that I said that, that's not what I'm saying. But simultaneously, between Lions, Pistons, Tigers, Red Wings, they've got 4 of the best guys in place, you know, at the same time. And I think it's huge. And the Lions kind of started this fire, right? I think other teams in Detroit saw, and owners saw, what the Lions were doing, and they wanted to be part of it. There's something about winning that is contagious, infectious. Everybody wants to be part of it, right? Everybody wants to crowd in the corner around, the person of the hour, and that's exactly what the Lions were, and it's starting to spread.
Hey, Jen, I know you're going to get going, so I'm going to wrap this up, but I really would love to have you. I really would love to have you back on again in the
Oh, I
future
would love that.
because I'd love to talk a little more about your career and how you got started, and also about the Red Wings. They don't fire coaches in mid-season very often. Harry Neal, I believe, was the last one in 84, 85. And
Is that true? Wow. Yeah, I
yeah,
guess I have never covered it. I have never
yeah.
covered a Red Wings coach being fired mid-season.
Yeah, so I'm 52 years old, and I thought, okay, McClellan is a nice replacement, and maybe the team will win a couple of games and stuff. But to go 15-4-1 in their last 20 games is just insane. And then Patrick
It really
Kane,
is, right?
53 shootout goals, and it
Yeah.
seems like this coaching change just reinvented the team, and I didn't think it would go this long.
Oh, it absolutely reinvigorated them. And the fact that they went on the road and swept and it wasn't just that they swept a 4-game road trip for the first time since 96. It's the teams they beat and how they
Quality
beat
teams.
quality teams in Edmonton. And that Seattle team was coming for them, gunning for them, hungry, and to win in overtime or win in a shootout, I mean, it was an incredible trip. And it's now appointment viewing, right? It's must-see TV. You want to stay up late. I can't tell you that 2 months ago I would have stayed up and watched the Wings playing on the West Coast at 1 a.m. I didn't really care to because I didn't think they would win. And now you never question, will they win? It's how they'll win.
I'm happy for Ken Cal, Mark Champion,
Yeah.
and also George Blaha too, because I'd like to see George's last couple years, or when he does retire, to see this Pistons team back in the playoffs and hopefully even winning a couple games this year as well. But hey, Jen, I'm going to let you go, but you have an open invite to come back on again.
Oh,
And
thanks, Chris. It
I
was
wanna
really
say-
my pleasure. Yeah, it was really, really fun to chat with you. And like I said, there's never a day that I don't want to talk Detroit sports, especially when it's as exciting as it is right now in Detroit. I mean, I'm having a blast. I feel so blessed that I've been able to do it, not just for 30 years, but 30 years in a great market and with so many great fans, viewers, listeners, everything that have helped me sustain my career. I love when people say, "Hey, we watch you all the time." That makes me happy because that means we're doing something right. And the fact that I've been able to do it with Dan Campbell, with Dan Miller and Woody Woodruff and our producer, Greg Cantor, we have all been in our sports department, and Matt Trump, one of our producers as well. We've all been together for 20 plus years, and it's almost unheard of, in local sports. And it's a great testament to the city and the sports teams and the fans.
My two favorite sports cities are Detroit and Philly. Actually, Buffalo too. Detroit,
Yeah,
Philly, and
Buffalo's
Buffalo.
a good one.
They're a great sports town,
Yes,
and they've been
it
really
is.
good with me. And Jen, I've only been doing radio and media for 5 years, and I'm completely self-taught, and I
Oh,
love it. I love it because it's not really work to you. When you have a passion for something, it's not work. And I just love having my guests on, and I've been very lucky to get a lot of amazing guests. And I'm just hoping I can be in Detroit soon and cover the Pistons and Red Wings and Tigers at Comerica Park. And hopefully I'll be able to run into you and
well,
Dan Miller
absolutely.
and Brad Gallery. You guys have been so great to me, and I really appreciate it, Jen.
Oh, well, thank you for having me, and thanks for the kind words. Yeah, it was really fun to chat with you, Chris.
And I will send you the video and audio copy and then break this down into real clips for you as well. I've learned how to edit video too, which is
Oh, good. And
something.
edit out the part where I couldn't remember
Okay.
Antoine Randall's name.
Don't worry, it happens to all of us, including me. I'm 50. I'm going to be 53. But Jen, I'm going to let you go. But
Thanks.
where can my audience follow you on social media quickly?
Oh, well, on Instagram, I'm Jen Hammond TV. And on Twitter, I believe I'm Hammer Fox 2. I have to look for that too. I don't even know what my handles are. I'm pretty sure that I said those in the right order.
And Blue Sky, are you on Blue Sky yet?
No.
No. Okay.
I'll find that and I'll try to get my son to teach me. He's 24, so he's a little more savvy with tech than I am.
And I saw your post. Wish your son a happy birthday.
Thank
They grow
you.
up quick.
Yeah, we had a great celebration.
All right, Jen. Well, have a great day. And again, thank you so much for coming on. And we'll continue to watch Fox 2 Detroit for sports.
Please do. Thanks so much. You have a great day too.
You too. Thanks, Jen.
Bye.
Bye. All right, guys, that concludes season 9, episode 51, overall 491 of Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show. I want to say thank you to my guest, Jennifer Hammond, the longtime sports anchor and 2-time Emmy award-winning journalist with Fox 2 Sports in Detroit, for coming on and talking Detroit Lions, a little Red Wings, and a little Pistons and Tigers with us as well. Before we wrap up this show, guys, I'm going to play an interview I did at the KeyBank Center after the Bandits 16-10 win over Albany from the KeyBank Saturday with all lacrosse podcast host and Streampunk Entertainment lacrosse insider Gary Grube. Please make sure you hit the subscribe notification to my YouTube channel. Chris Palme from the KeyBank Center after tonight's Buffalo Bandits 16-10 win over the Albany Firewolves, and I have a special guest with me, Gary Grube. He's with Streampunk Entertainment. He's a National Lacrosse League insider, and we're going to talk to him about the game tonight. Hey, Gary, what are your thoughts on the Bandits' latest win, 16-10 over Albany here at the KeyBank Center?
Aren't they just an incredible team? They're just from top to bottom, just an absolutely juggernaut of a team. It doesn't matter who you're looking for, who you're looking at. If you want tough defense, they've got it. You want great goaltending, they've got it. You want scoring, they got wave after wave after wave of scoring. Tough to defend against.
I want to ask you this, Gary. What makes Matt Vince so special as a goalie, a future Hall of Famer, and at his age, at 41 right now in his career?
I think a couple of things. Number one is he's in phenomenal shape. He's in better shape than some of the 20-year-olds in this league.
Wow.
Number two is he's a reflex goalie and still has all of his reflexes. So he can make that save and make that second save, kick the rebound, and still get the third one. And he can do it time after time after time. And again, because he's in such great shape, his cardio is great. So he can put up lots of saves in a game. I think he had one game where he had something like 64 shots, and he was still, under 10 goals against. So he's just a phenom. And once in a lifetime, you get to see someone like him.
This Buffalo Bandits team last year obviously won back-to-back titles, but they kind of struggled to get into the playoffs as a number 4 seed. And at one point, they were 5 and 6. What makes this year's team even more dangerous than last year's team? And just thoughts on John Tavares as a head coach.
Well, I think the first thing is that Buffalo had a lot of injuries last year. And this year, with the exception of Chris Kluche and maybe Zach Belter, they really haven't had the injury bug hit them. And hopefully they won't have that hit them at all this year, and we can see what they really can do. Secondly is I think that they're even more mean than they were last year, and they were a pretty mean team last year. But now they have that drive. And for Matt Vince to think about this one, and not a lot of people have thought about it, he will be the first player ever to win three-peating with 2 separate teams, Rochester and Buffalo. That's mind-boggling. And as for John Tavares, what can you say that hasn't been said about him? He is calm amongst the storm. He is knowledgeable amongst everybody. And he always has that decisive plan and backup plan and plan C in case everything goes sideways. But always, that calm under fire, and that rubs off on his guys, period. And even when they're taking penalties like they took in the third quarter tonight, the first thing that's coming out of their mouth is, we got to be better. We can't take that motion thing. They won by 6, and they're still looking at ways that they need to improve themselves, because down the road, these things are the little things that are going to kill you. And if they're worried about that now with 6-goal wins, can you imagine when they have this and there's something on the line? This is going to be one hell of a team to keep going against, especially in a playoff series.
Well, the Bandits now are off until February 14th. They've got 2 games back-to-back against the Rock on the 14th and San Diego on the 15th. That's going to test their depth a little bit. Do you feel John Tavares a break out of those 2 games?
Maybe in one of the other games. I don't think either of these 2 games, because both Toronto and San Diego are tough. Toronto is healthy now. The last 2 games that Toronto's played, they've won decisively. As we're speaking now, Toronto is winning still over a tough Colorado team. And I think that this is the one that's circled on the calendar because these 2 teams hate each other. I don't mean just like each other. I mean, they hate each other. As seen in the last game that they played, it went down to the last minute. So I don't think that we're going to be seeing Stephen Orleman in net for that game. The next game is against San Diego. While San Diego's had a few trouble scoring this year, they still are a team that's loaded with talent and a team that I think will be in the playoff picture come the end of the year. And I don't think that they can risk that. Somewhere down the line, maybe, when you hit, maybe a Vegas or something like that down the road, maybe that's the time to give Matt some rest. But for the first time, Matt didn't play any summer ball this year. Matt was rested when he came in, and it shows because he's in playoff form now. That little bit of rest was huge towards his mental and physical capabilities, and you can see what he can do when he's at 100%.
And finally, what makes Josh Byrne and Dane Smith so great? And you've been following this league for many years and many decades. Would you rank them up there as all-time great bandits as of now?
They're all-time great bandits for sure. Are they the best bandits ever? I think they're close. But the one thing that really works with those two, chemistry. These guys do everything together, on, off the floor. They even got married at the same time. They do everything. Their podcast is together. They are out together when it goes clubbing, when it's playing, when it's practicing. Everything they do is together. They're of the same thought process. We listened to it in a press conference from either of them, especially when Josh Byrne was talking about how great Dane Smith is of a passer, watching him in practice and watching him practice how to do that. And it made Josh start doing that. So the two of them are on the same page at all times with finding each other, finding their other teammates who are feeding them also, but also being able to anticipate and be able to lay the ball exactly where it needs to be so that there's no extra movement. And you see a lot of quick stick, you see a lot of in-position things, and a lot of things that are really tough to defend because they're on the same page.
And finally, Gary, can you tell us about your next podcast show, and where can people find you on social media and Stream Punk Entertainment?
Well, you can find us on Stream Punk Entertainment both Thursdays and Sundays. Thursdays is interview shows, Sundays with the writers, and it's the week that was in lacrosse. You can find us on all the major Facebook and Instagram, as well as Twitter, and of course, streampunkentertainment.com.
Well, Gary, I want to say thanks for giving us a little bit of time after this game tonight, and really looking forward to that Rock Bandits game. I think it's going to be like a playoff battle on February 14th, and I want to say thank you so much again for coming on tonight.
It's my pleasure, Chris, as always, and really that's the litmus test for Buffalo. That weekend is the litmus test to see exactly if this is as tough a team as we all think they are, and I think that they're going to come out pretty strong in this.
All right, well, thanks, Gary, and safe travels back to Toronto.
Thanks very much, Chris.
That was Gary Grube from All Lacrosse All the Time and also Stream Punk Entertainment. He is a National Lacrosse League insider with them. And if anybody knows the National Lacrosse League or the game of lacrosse as good as Gary Grube, I don't know who, but that was after the Buffalo Bandits 16-10 went over Albany. That was Gary Grube from Stream Punk Entertainment, National Lacrosse League insider. And the Buffalo Bandits are off this week. They are on their third and final bye week. They are back in action on Friday, February 14th, Valentine's Day, taking on their longtime hated QEW rivals, the Toronto Rock in Mississauga. And then the Bandits are back home on Saturday, February 15th at 7:30 against those San Diego Seals at the KeyBank Center. You can get tickets at bandits.com. And also you guys can listen to the Buffalo Bandits on 1520 The Bet in Buffalo with John Gerkler and Steve Bermel and Dave Buchanan on the home broadcasts from the KeyBank Center as well. If you've never been to a Bandits game, check out bandits.com and get yourself tickets. And if you're more interested in the National Lacrosse League, check their website out at nll.com. The next live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show, I have another doubleheader today, sponsored by Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership in Wellington Brewery here in Guelph. It's going to be tonight, Thursday, February 6th at 7:30 p.m. Eastern with my special guest, Nick Small. He is the co-host of the Argo Bounce Live audio show with me during the Argos and CFL season. And Nick and I are going to come on and we're going to talk about the 2025 CFL schedule, CFL free agency, and some of the moves, some of the players the Argos have lost and re-signed, and our thoughts on training camp coming up in May at the University of Guelph. So if you're a fan of the Canadian Football League, a fan of the 19-time Grey Cup champion Toronto Argonauts, or a fan of myself and Nick, check out Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show, 7:30 Eastern tonight, and we'll be on all major audio platforms and video platforms such as this as well. Again, I want to say thank you to my guest, Jennifer Hammond from Fox 2 Sports, reporter in Detroit, for coming on here as well. Before we wrap up this show, guys, the Cambridge and District Humane Society is celebrating their 70th anniversary with a masquerade black tie event on Thursday, February 13th. That's next Thursday. Hurry and get your tickets at Tapestry Hall, located at 74 Grand Avenue South in Cambridge, Ontario. Tickets are $250 Canadian for VIP admission, and general admission tickets are $175. They're only selling 150 tickets, so please hurry and get your tickets. And you can purchase your tickets via e-transfer, exec.director@CambridgeHumaneSociety.org, or in person at 1650 Dunbar Road in Cambridge, Ontario, 519-623-7722, extension 0. Or for more information on this event and fundraiser, check out the CambridgeHumaneSociety.org. And if you're looking to volunteer with the Cambridge District Humane Society like myself, go on their website and fill out a volunteer form there as well. And also, if you're looking to adopt a pet, all the pets that are up for adoption at the Cambridge District Humane Society, CambridgeHumaneSociety.org, and check out their profiles as well. And they're also doing a raffle draw there too. Click on their website and click on events, and you can purchase your ticket there as well. And I believe they're still selling 2025 Cambridge District Humane Society calendars for only $10. And I want to say thank you to the 32 people that bought a calendar for me for supporting the animals. They do great work down at the Cambridge District Humane Society. You can also follow me on Blue Sky at Live with CDP 19, Blue Sky Social. I am on there now. It is sort of what Twitter used to be like. So check me out at Live with CDP 19, Blue Sky Social. And also, guys, I'm back on TikTok. I lost my main page. Long stories there. I'm back on TikTok. I've had to start over. So I lost all of my followers. So check me out at Live with CDP on TikTok. I'm back there and as a content creator. So again, thank you for those people who've refollowed me on TikTok. And for those I lost my connection with, please find me at Live with CDP on TikTok. Before we wrap up this show, guys, check out my one sponsor, Wellington Brewery, founded in 1985, located at 950 Woodlawn Road West in Guelph, Ontario. Check out their website, wellingtonbrewery.ca, 519-837-2337. Try a Wellion, and please remember to drink responsibly. First brewed way back in 1986, this legendary British-style strong ale is an all-time favorite that we bring back every winter to celebrate 40 years of Wellington Brewery, one of Canada's local oldest breweries. We are releasing Iron Duke in special vintage packaging, just like you remember it, with a robust malt character showcasing notes of toffee, caramel, raisin. Iron Duke remains a classic winter warmer. You can find this beloved brew on our online store, wellingtonbrewery.ca, with local and provincial-wide shipping available, or pop into our retail store and come say hi at 950 Woodlawn Road West in Guelph. Wellington Brewery is the official beer sponsor of Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show, and a special shout out to Jackie Hanna as well, and the great staff at Wellington Brewery. And check out their grilled cheese sandwiches on Thursday at the retail store at 950 Woodlawn Road as well. A little plug there. They have really good grilled cheese sandwiches. Before we wrap up the show, guys, Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show, again, is live streamed on these platforms: YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, LinkedIn, and now available on Instagram. And please remember to hit the subscribe notification. Also, guys, Barry Cullen Chevrolet right now, a 2025 Equinox LT FWD midnight edition, at least from 238 biweekly. That's like 119 weekly at 4.9% for 24 months with $3,600 down payment on an ultra low kilometer lease, or upgrade to a ADW all-wheel drive for additional I think I wrote down $2 weekly. I'm not sure. I'll just say you can upgrade for an additional amount. And also, guys, you can get more information at barrycullen.com. That's one of the important things when you do write stuff down. Make sure you write neatly. So again, if you're looking for 2025 Equinox LT four-wheel drive on all-wheel drive there, more details at barrycullen.com, or pop by the dealership at 905 Woodlawn Road West in the Guelph Auto Mall. Barry Cullen Chevrolet dealership has been family run and operated here in Guelph since 1969. I've been a proud customer of Barry Cullen Chevrolet dealership for 25 years, and they've been one of my major sponsors of Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show for the last 2.5 years as well. So please consider popping down to Barry Cullen Chevrolet dealership for your vehicle needs. Also, guys, I have a website. You can check it out at beacons.ai/Chris D. Palme. You can also refollow me again on TikTok at Live with CDP. I'm back on TikTok. StreamYard, again, is the official live stream provider of Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show. If you're into webinars or podcasting such as yours truly, check out StreamYard.com. And they do have business plans available. So click on StreamYard.com and click on the sales department for business pricing as well. And I've been with StreamYard now for over 4 years. Great customer service, great live streaming services they provide as well. Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show, the audio versions on these platforms: iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Spotify for podcasters, Apple Podcasts, Breaker, Pocket Casts, Spotify, Castbox, LinkedIn, Pandora, Tuned In, YouTube Music, and Good Pods. Please remember to subscribe and also hit the like notifications to the audio version of this talk show. Finally, you guys can email the show at Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show at cpalme19@gmail.com. And also, if you'd like to help support my media show and media work, I'm on PayPal, cpalme19@gmail.com. And I've joined the Cameo family a little while ago. If you're looking for a personalized video message from yours truly, check out StreamYard.com and type in Chris Palme and make sure you book your Cameo today as well. And remember to follow me on Facebook, Twitter, X, Blue Sky, Threads, Instagram, LinkedIn, and also on my YouTube channel. Please subscribe to Chris Palme Live with CDP Talk Show on YouTube. Hit the subscribe and like notification as well. And that's about it, guys. Before we wrap up this show, again, I want to say thank you to Jen Hammond for Fox 2 in Detroit for coming on here today. And my next Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show, again, brought to you by Barry Cullen Chevrolet and Wellington Brewery, is going to be tonight, Thursday, February 6th, 7:30 p.m. Eastern, with my special guest and co-host from the Argo Bounce Live audio show, Nick Small. We're going to talk Toronto Argonauts. We're going to talk CFL free agency and the 2025 CFL schedule. So again, if you're a fan of the 19-time Grey Cup champion Toronto Argonauts, check out Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show tonight at 7:30 with Nick Small, brought to you by Wellington Brewery and Barry Cullen Chevrolet here in Guelph. I hope everybody has a great afternoon, and we'll see you back here tonight at 7:30 for another edition of Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show.
Live with CDP Sports Talk, a weekly sports and entertainment podcast, sponsored by Barry Cullen Chevrolet. Live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and LinkedIn, and on audio via Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Spotify, Anchor FM, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Radio Public, and TuneIn. Now,